it's amazing to see training take over at those times where people are just it's instinct. It's just like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that adaptive unconscious. It's good and bad. I mean, you can be very effective in that moment, but long term, it sticks with you. And
Sure.
it's something you can be proud of, but you can be proud of things that still affect you and they can hurt or, resurface.
Welcome to the Calm and the Chaos podcast, where we discuss untold heroic experiences and dive into the mindset of the Navy's elite rescue swimmers. Hosted by former U.S. Navy Aviation Rescue Swimmer, Mount Everest solo summiteer, and best-selling author Brian Dickinson.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Dickinson. If you're enjoying these stories, please take a second to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. It helps more people find these conversations, and it keeps the mission alive. And if you want early access to new episodes and to support what we're building, consider becoming a Spotify paid subscriber. Your support means everything. Now let's jump in so others may live. Master Chief, Mark Brush, 33 years. Man, we've been collaborating on, I guess, Instagram, and I've been posting some of your just epic pictures and video. So I appreciate having you on, and it's going to be an exciting episode.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Thanks for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Yeah. It's about time, huh? So I guess for those that, you've over 3 decades just serving, just doing some amazing things. Let's get everyone up to speed. So where did you grow up?
Southern California, actually, born and raised around like the Pasadena, Pomona area. My dad was a Pasadena cop for 33 years. He actually beat me by a month. But yeah, he was Pasadena cop. My mom was a dance teacher and grew up little city called Laverne. So most people know it for the university, but it was good growing up. Pretty much from the time I was born to when I left for the Navy.
Nice. What year was that?
1991.
Oh, nice.
October 91, class 001. Got there right at midnight on October 1st.
Oh, wow. Where did you go to boot camp?
Great Lakes.
Okay. And then from there, you went to Pensacola?
Nope. Dude, my career, as I'm sitting here looking at my shadow box, I can honestly say, and I'm sure most will agree with me, I had a really lucky career. As far as I would tell people, it's like Plinko, where you drop the chip in at the top and it bounces down the pegs and you end up in a good spot. It was like that every single set of orders.
Nice. Take us
I
through.
enlisted TAR and had no idea what TAR was until I got done with A school. And they were like, oh, well, you're a reservist. You get to pick where you're going. I'm like, I didn't enlist as a reservist, but I didn't know what TAR was. I just told them I wanted airframes and I wanted to leave for boot camp as soon as I could. And they had openings in the TAR program. So went to boot camp and then Millington for AMH A school. So I was a ground pounder from 91 to 98.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Was about to get out in 98 in Point Mugu and had a chief. Dude, my dad being a cop, I started interviewing with CHP and was going through all of the build up for it and did the psychology test and the physical abilities test and all that stuff. And
did you pass the psychology test?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
amazingly, I know, for the psych background. But buddy of mine, Todd Rupp, Chief Todd Rupp, saw something in me. We were at Reserve Center, being reserved, as we were at the Naval Air Reserve Center at Point Mugu there, training reservists on the weekends and stuff. And he said, well, what do you think about flying? And at that time, HCS 5 was right next door at Mugu. So he had been a prior HCS 4 guy, took me over there, sat me in helicopter, and like, okay, cool. So he got me set up with aircrew school, and that was November 98. And then I went to SAR in 2000. A couple of years later, I flew as a dry crewman for 2 years. Went to SAR in 2000.
Okay, so you went through aircrew. You went to Pensacola, aircrew only, then went 2 years. Okay, that's unusual.
Yeah, was a fleet returnee as an E5. Was a senior guy in my class. So
I bet that was fun.
It was it was good, man. It's aircrew kind of set me up for it. having seen the school across the street and what those guys were doing. And
Hmm.
I was we kind of joke about it, but being a dry crewman at HCS 5 and probably out in the fleet too, it was like you weren't a whole crewman until you went to SAR school, So I bit the bullet and went, and school was cool, man.
So
I
how
ended
did
up
you
having,
prep, I guess,
but
because so you went air crew, you were dry. Now you need to prep, just to, because most people they get there, they have no idea really, you can
right.
hear the horror stories, but if you're sitting there going, okay, I need to be pretty darn fit, and you're older at that point, experienced, everything else. So
Yeah.
were you just working out like crazy or?
Yep. Yep. When I got to school, I was probably in the best shape of my life. And especially PTN with all the swimmers at the squadron. I just kind of
Mhm.
fell in with them, and they all got worked together to get me prepped up. I was already in pretty good shape before that.
Were they teaching you techniques as well, like life
Yeah.
saving,
Oh yeah.
everything?
Well, so the dry and the wet crewmen would train at the pool on Sundays on drill weekends.
Oh,
But
that's
we were
cool.
all there anyways, and most of the time the dry guys were playing Survivor. So they showed me brakes, holds, releases, and going through a bunch of stuff. So I was prepped up pretty well by the time I got there. Uh,
Nice.
so your calm in the chaos podcast. So when I went to SAR school, I made it to week 3, and I had Tom Wool. Um, God, who was my other instructors? Lingo. There was a handful of people there. I made it to week 3, the last run of week 3 with that stupid long run, and that whole week I had been having chills back in the barracks room, like night sweats in bed and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That last run, dude, we did 11 miles, something like that, and then we were headed down the sidewalk. So the old SAR school, we were headed down the sidewalk to, like, I thought it was done. I'd pushed my whole way through it, and they made a right turn to go towards the obstacle course. Like, nope, we're going to do some more. And I passed out.
Oh,
So
wow.
as I was running, and I was right at the front, passed out, fell down on the ground. I was out for about 4 minutes. They got me to the hospital, and come to find out I had pneumonia. So I did an 11-mile run with pneumonia. And then they kind of figured out it was because we weren't washing the masks well enough, that we were, the pool masks that just went in
Yeah.
the big bin.
Yeah.
So they sterilized everything, and I ended up out for about 2 weeks trying to get my strength back, and then graduated the class after that.
Wow. Man, that's crazy. You'd be a
I thought they were going to be
non-SAR
mad
swimmer for
because I
that.
didn't tell them I had freaking, that I wasn't feeling well. I just thought it was something I could push through every day.
I know.
I had no
That's
idea what it was.
most people, right?
Yeah.
In that scenario, because yeah, I mean, honestly, you think you can, and you're so far into it, and the last thing you want to do is get rolled back and like start
Yep.
over or whatever. But yeah, man, that's brutal. So yeah, I'm glad they caught that and you were able to rally through SAR school though. Like even though you were so prepped, what do you think? Like, what was the hardest part other than obviously running 11 miles and then hitting the O course with a pneumonia?
The hardest part of SAR school was just the running, man. I love to swim, like the 44 lap, out test, buddy toe, and all that stuff.
Hmm.
Love to swim. And I had a buddy one time that told me, "You're a rescue swimmer, not a rescue runner." I'm like, okay, that's just part of staying in shape. But the runs for me. I mean, I'm 6'1". Runs for me on my knees and my ankles and stuff has always been a little tough. But
Hmm.
some of the beach runs and some of the stuff like that. But it was a good experience, man. Aside from the pneumonia, the school was great.
Yep. So like life
So
saving.
so
Now,
then finished.
you're doing old school life saving, right? Now they're
Right.
like water jujitsu and stay on the surface.
Dude, I got to see the new facility. So Waylon Wolf,
Yep.
he retired out of there as the head
Yeah,
of the
good dude.
school. Went down there and visited. Shoot, last August, September, something like that.
Is that for
But
his retirement?
it was after. It was
Okay.
so he was a civilian working at the Naval Aviation Museum.
Yep.
So went down and saw him, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go check out SAR school?" I was like, "Hell yeah!" So went over there and checked out the new facilities, and it's amazing what they got over there now, man. Their facility is massive, and it was really hard to tell where the old SAR school was, like the footprint of it and the O course.
Hmm.
Really hard to tell where it is now. So the hurricane washed it all out pretty good.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I need to get down there. Okay. So like multis, everything else,
Yep.
all good.
Yeah. So got done with. Uh, so it's funny to go to SAR school, especially So I mean, we can go into the what HCS 4 and 5 and HAL 4 and 5 and HAL 3 and all that history. But to be a rescue swimmer in a squadron that deploys primarily over land,
Hmm.
we would go to the boat to do a CQ det. It was 2 weeks, and it was like it wasn't a joke. It was almost like a novelty of like, oh, there's an HCS 5 hotel on a carrier. Like, whoa, sea time. You know. So we didn't get a lot of time at sea. Majority of the rescues that dudes got over the years, a couple in Iraq that guys didn't get proper recognition for. Just is what it is at the time. But there was a lot of overland, like triage kind of stuff with getting guys back to the cache when things happened out in the field. But
Yep. Yeah, it's funny because, I wrote the book and doing this pod and stuff, just interacting with SAR swimmers from the beginning of time. And um, yeah, most of us don't consider a rescue unless it's like standard, like what you trained for in RSS.
right,
But on a daily, we're doing medevacs, we're doing overland SAR, there's so many things. It's like what actually equates. Like if we talk to each other, there's a certain baseline of this is, yeah, that sounds standard. That's a rescue. You talk to anyone else outside of this, they're like, sounds like every flight that you go on. Like it's just
right,
insanity. Like, well, okay, it's all perspective, I guess.
yeah. Yep. So went to SAR, went back to 5, 2002, talked the skipper into letting me retour. Between 4 and 5 at that time in the late the 90s and the early 2000s, because we had the minigun, getting guys qualified left, right, day, night, the training pipeline, and it was tar, so we weren't getting fleet AWs coming in from like HS or anything like that. But
Mhm.
our community of gunners was so small that keeping us. So I'm going to try and keep this really short. But that was the reason. One of the reasons that they did the AW conversion in '06 is because somebody like me, I was an AMH getting detailed as an air crewman. So the maintenance detailers were having to detail the ground pound or the not the ground pound, the maintenance air crewman at that time, and it was really
Mhm.
difficult for them to what's an AM compared to this AM. It's their NECs, but we didn't have an aircrew detailer. I was being detailed by the AM detailer. So when I went up for orders in 2002, I was pretty qualified in the aircraft, and so just asked skipper, "Hey, can you make a phone call? I'd love to stay." And double toured. So stayed at HCS 5 for 8 years, which was kind of fortuitous because it was after 9/11 when we were ramping up for something, and then '03 when we deployed to Iraq. So got to be there for the last 3 years of that.
Yeah.
But because of the AW conversion, I chose to stay maintenance. I've had many conversations with people about that over the years. I love flying. I thought I was pretty good at it, but converting to AW in the TAR community, um, we didn't know exactly how that was all going to work out, as far as manning goes and promotions and stuff like that. And as it turned out, AW TAR only lasted 2 more years, and then they wrapped everybody into active. But advancements were pretty screwed there for a while. So stayed maintenance, went to VR 57 right across the ramp there at North Island as a maintenance chief, made senior chief, and then wanted to get back in the fight pretty bad and got orders to 84 as a maintenance senior chief. So got to go back on platform and work with hotels again, but it was a different experience and a different time. I tried getting back to what was HSC 84 in 2008. They put out an EMER to try to get guys with gout time back, but I had just gone through treatment for Hodgkin's. So I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, one of the burn pit guys. So we have a bunch of guys that were where we were in Balad was about a half-mile downwind of the burn pit.
Oh, well.
So we've got quite a few HCS guys that have had asthma issues, lung issues, and I had, Hodgkin's not even 6 months after I got back. So I was air medically down for 2 years, and they wouldn't let me go. So it is what it is.
Yeah. 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 Sorry. That's brutal. And you think about the people that live over there.
Yeah.
Like like you do a deployment and it affects you for life. Like
Mm-hmm.
just imagine the people that are like there permanently. That's just, yeah, it's horrible. It's one of those things. And hopefully you're taken care of by the VA and
We won't go down that path on the podcast, but
yep.
no, the VA in Colorado is pretty overwhelmed because there's a lot of retirees here. But
Mhm.
when I went through the evaluation process, it was kind of funny because they gave me, so I'm on the burn pit registry, but they gave me 0 for the Hodgkins because they can't determine whether it was service connected. But I got a percentage for the scars from the port that they put in,
Yeah.
then the biopsy where they took the lymph node out, and so I got a percentage for the permanent scars, but not the cancer. So, but finished in '08, so going on 17 years clean. So doing pretty
Awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you want to take us through some interesting mission sets?
good. So I thought about it last night, and like the one that I had messaged you about.
Hmm.
Um, there's 3 that came to mind pretty quickly. So I'll go in chronological order. So 2000 up in Point Mugu. So we had an HCS-5 hadn't home port changed down to San Diego yet, and we were basically like on a helicopter island up in Point Mugu because we were the only game in town. There was no Coast Guard, no other Navy helicopters in the area, so we were it.
Hmm.
But came into work one day. I want to say it was I think it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the birds had been cold for 3 days over the weekend, and we came into work 4 p.m. for night check, and we weren't even there for a half an hour. And the maintenance chief came in and yelling and screaming that we needed to scramble 4 helicopters immediately. So Alaskan Airlines Flight 261 had just gone down off the coast, Channel Islands. It wasn't even 15 miles off the coast from where we were at. So within an hour, it was probably one of the most amazing things I've seen in helicopters is to go from cold steel to 4 dressed out, swimmers dressed out, 4 ready to go birds in an hour. We had 4 birds overhead the mishap area within an hour. And we provided SAR for almost 18 hours constant. But as and everybody else out there knows that there were no survivors from that mishap, and the tale of it in the videos and it's harrowing to see what actually happened. But we were doing 3-hour bags over the mishap site, and I got my turn at about 2 o'clock in the morning. And at that time, I was still a dry crewman. It was right before I had left for SAR school.
Hmm.
And hitting the water with the handheld spotlight, because we were trying to find anything we could. By 2 o'clock in the morning, we knew it was just a recovery.
Hey everyone, this podcast doesn't pay for itself, which is why I launched Kick Ass, Keep Calm in the Chaos merch line. It's not just about a slogan. It's a mindset, a mission, a way of life. Plus, it's an attention getter as random people see and ask about your dope gear. It provides an opportunity to share your unique story with others to help spread some calm across humanity. Every shirt, hat, or sticker you buy goes straight into keeping this podcast alive, the incredible guests and stories, and the impact of their experiences. Tap the link or visit shop.calminthechaospodcast.com to gear up today. Thank you so much for helping support the mission so others may live.
Yeah. Port Hueneme had deployed a bunch of boats to pick up, whatever they could find in the water. But when you're holding that handheld, and they got all the hover lights and everything, forward hovers are all on with the helicopter. But you're creeping along and you're shining it down into the water, and you can see about 10 feet deep, into the water, and you would see, a body floating about 5 feet below the surface. And you'd hover over it, and then give the guys a lat long to motor over to with the boat, and then they'd fish the bodies out. It hit some of the guys harder than others, but you talk about resilience. That you go 3 hours straight in that like hyper focus with a spotlight looking for bodies in and amongst debris and airplane parts and insulation and wiring and all kinds of stuff in the water. That was pretty wild.
Yeah. No, that's horrible. And yeah, you can't unsee things like that. And in the moment, you're I don't know, just suppressing it. You're doing your job, I mean, just think about, I don't know, just the peace, I guess, that you're bringing to the families of being able
Right.
to be a part of that, but doesn't make it any easier. And so were you guys deploying any swimmers, or was it purely just,
No,
yeah.
it was all recovery, man. There was nothing. Everything once that airplane hit the water was inanimate. So,
Yeah.
there's occasionally you'd see a complete body floating and hope that there was something, that you'd be able to find someone, but nobody survived that. And I was, dude, they hit the water, 400 to 500 miles an hour vertical. So,
Yeah, it would have been over really quick. But
yeah,
yeah, I'd imagine just even if a small sea state, it'd be so difficult from a hovering helicopter at night with a spotlight. Like, did they just move or, but I'm sure face down, obviously, most
right,
underwater. And man, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's just I don't know, just the grim reminder of what the job's about. You can watch cool movies and it all seems all magical and everything else, but it's just not the case. You know,
right.
our job is,
And it's kind of amazing too, when you talk about that. And I'm sure, doing starboard D off the carrier and you're just having a day where you're sitting in the back and you're eating your sandwich and you're, shooting the poop with the guys in front, having a good old time. And just within a fraction of a second, everything's in motion. Like
mhm.
we're running on the ramp trying to get aircraft ready to go. The swimmer's already dressed out and you're putting them in the water, because the boat or the plane just went off the forward end of the ship or had a ramp strike or something like that. It's just amazing when it comes to rescue how quickly, it's a little different than like doing a station SAR thing where it's a planned, you're going out to rescue somebody that's lost in the forest and you're going to go rescue them. But just that instantaneous, like in a moment, everything changes is it's amazing to see training take over at those times where people are just, it's instinct. It's just like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's that adaptive unconscious. It's good and bad. I mean, you can be very effective in that moment, but long term, it sticks with you. And
sure.
it's something you can be proud of, but you can be proud of things that still affect you and they can hurt or, resurface. So yeah, that's a crazy scenario. And in yours, yeah, you for like you said, cold steel. You guys are just sitting there on a Sunday and boom, four aircraft
Yeah.
in the
Just
air.
in for night check, like, hunky dory. And, we've all got our food for dinner and talking about what we did over the weekend. And then just all of a sudden it was full go. But, so, the second incident that I thought about, so I was in, I think every crewman that does this for, a period of time, you're going to have a close call or several close calls.
Sure.
And now I can say it now. I went years without saying it. Dude, we went decades being special operations helicopters, which I'm sure you were familiar with the HCS guys and, later on the HSC guys.
Mhm.
But went decades without having an aircraft go down and, have a memorial someplace. We had John in 2018 that is going to live in everybody's conscience forever. But outside of that, I mean, we deployed to Iraq March 03 and HSC 84 left December 11 and we brought everybody home. Every
Yeah.
squadron member came home after 14,500 hours of flying in country. Everybody came home. But a close mishap that I had just gotten back from my first deployment. So this would be summer of 03. I didn't do a bits flight, any kind of fam flight or, just back in the saddle after being in Iraq. And we were doing a daytime into nighttime rope out at an island, just a training event, kind of, it's just roping. We're not doing guns. We're not doing anything. Got out there. And of course, being an island, it's 110 degrees. So the relationship between sea power, ECS, and 110 degrees is a delicate one, especially when you're doing elevators and iterations. The one time we had gone back to the pad to pick up another group of 10 dudes, and we had a spot that we were taking them out and roping them to, just out down the siphons and out into the desert a little bit. And when we landed on the pad and we were loading the guys up, pilot had turned off sea power and turned on ECS to cool down the avionics. We took off to go do the iteration, didn't turn sea power back on. So we're coming in, not even 5 minutes away from the pad. We're coming in to do the rope, and we start getting slow, maybe 60 knots as we start getting through that that burble, and the tail immediately starts breaking left. That we drooped. I mean, we've got 10 dudes on board. It's 110 degrees and sea power's off. So we started to droop. I'll remember it every day. Is Russ Allen, he retired an admiral, grabs the sticks, and so I'm the crew chief in the hotel. I'm sitting on the left side of the cabin. I got to back up because I'm going to demonstrate. So I'm sitting in a seat right next to the CDU, and I remember the droop, and we started descending towards my side of the helicopter. And like a freaking idiot, I turned around and I put my feet on both sides of the cabin window because the window's open. And we're starting to flare sideways. And it's like, if we hit the ground, I'm going out that window and then probably getting rolled on.
Yeah.
So Russ had enough stick time and enough of that instinct that as we broke like this, that he dropped the collective. We got a little bit of descent going, and then he yanked it in right at the bottom. We couldn't clear the landing. I mean, it was going to be a crash landing. Mm-hmm. But he had pulled in enough collective and had enough rotor power to get it vertical and then drop. So we dropped from about 8 feet vertical straight down.
Wow.
And you've flown out in the Southern California desert, the washes, mm-hmm. that where the water will run off and there's kind of an erosion on both sides of the sand wash. Mm-hmm. So we came to rest, boom, landed, hit the ground. Rotors are still spinning. We're still upright. And it was just one of those moments where it all of a sudden got real quiet and real still. And I poked my head out the window like real slow, and I look up, and the nose of the aircraft from about the main mounts forward is sitting on top of an embankment. The main mounts are a foot off the ground. And I look back towards the tail. The tail wheel is on the ground, and the stab is about 2 inches away from the dirt.
Whoa.
We came to rest with the nose of the aircraft on top of the embankment. Tail wheels on the ground, nose is on the ground, but we're sitting there. And just kind of let everything settle down for a second. And then we started to talk about it. And I don't remember if it was Russ or the co-pilot, but they said, get the guys off. And like that instant where it takes over, that training takes over. So we don't have main mounts in contact with the deck.
Right.
I'm thinking about dynamic rollover while we're trying to kick 10 dudes out the door. And I said, stop, don't move anybody. Don't do anything. He checked sea power and he's like, is everybody okay to pull pitch and just move forward onto the embankment? Everybody in the aircraft was okay with it. So turn sea power on, yay. And then we lifted up, move forward, set down. And dude, it did damage to the belly of the helicopter, crushed the dolls and stuff, but it was light enough damage that we got a one-time ferry flight and flew it back to San Diego. But just in that moment, like it just happened that fast, that everything was fine. It's a great day. And then we go in and, hearing that the sound of that droop, it will never, ever fucking leave. Sorry. It'll never leave you. Once you hear it go below 258, it's just like, oh crap. But the fact that he managed to get that thing on the deck and we didn't roll was pretty amazing.
It's crazy, man. Someone's definitely watching over you. And yeah, like you say, it's if you knew things were coming, they wouldn't come because you would them, right? So You're always like in that red, ready to respond. But that's crazy because you're like teetering at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Any left or right could be a rotor strike, and you're going to go down hard. How big of a jump would it have been to get the guys out? Like you guys are pretty low to the ground at that point, right? But
well, with the main mounts fully extended and being a foot off the ground, it was probably a good 6 feet.
Yeah,
5-6 feet down to the ground, and sand because it was down in the wash is where they would have jumped.
Right. But where would could they have run straight out left or right? If the rotors tipped anything, like they're going to get decapitated.
Possibly.
Yeah. It's just,
yeah.
Yeah, you made
But
the right
the
call for
fact
sure.
that we didn't go sideways and dig a main mount into the,
Hmm.
if we would have been 3 feet further back, I'd say about 6 feet, because there was about 6 feet of the nose on the embankment. If we would have been about 6 feet further back, we would have hit the sand sideways, and the rotor blades would have hit the top of the embankment when they, dipped once we hit the ground.
Yeah.
It would have been a totally different story.
Yeah.
We got lucky again.
Yeah. It reminds me of Shropshire's. Um, they had a crash, out of Kuwait. I described that in the book, and they went down pretty hard.
Yep.
And
Was that HS-14?
I don't remember if he was with 14.
Now there was a hotel that went down in Kuwait, and I think it was 14. And that bird it was pretty bad.
Yeah, it might have
Everybody
been.
walked away.
Yeah, it's nuts. But yeah, it's you're going out doing whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to do,
Yeah,
and
right.
just life just happens so quickly, and it's amazing because we both know people that came out on the other end of that in a very negative way. They're
Oh yeah.
not with us anymore, and just count your blessings and kind of realize, one, you get now survivor's guilt because we're in a group of like, okay, we survived certain things. Why are we here? And I think there's always bigger purpose. We just kind of have to figure out what that was and actually do something with it.
So the third story that came to mind didn't involve a mishap. It was actually I would say so I deployed to Iraq 4 times. Did some real good flying. February 9th, 2006 was probably one of the best missions. Greg Leland, he's
No,
getting ready
man.
to retire here soon. So it was Bill, God damn it, Stewart, Bill Stewart, and Greg Leland was in country as a JTAC and came over to Balad to go fly a mission with us. And us being like, we're all familiar with each other, and like, who the hell's this dude? He's an HS guy. He's going to come and he's going to do FLIR in one of our missions. Dude, it was me, another guy, Nick Hawks. No, actually, Nate Cross was on that mission. But dude, Greg on the FLIR and when he was on the stick did amazing. Like, just for a crew that had not flown together, it clicked really quick. But essentially, what the mission was we were basically taking down a town, and we had drawn a line straight up the middle of this town where conventional Army, Black Hawk, and Apaches were going to take down one side of the town. And then the JSOAD, the Joint Special Operations Air Detachment, which was HCS, TF-160, and the Air Force SOS squadrons with the MH-53 Deltas. We were tasked with taking down the other side of the town. So in a flight of 8 aircraft, we were Dash 8, running the FLIR. I'm not going to say whether I have the mission video or not, but it's one of the most incredible things to see because it was 2 hotels, 3 Limas.
Why aren't you going to tell us? Didn't you already share that with me?
Dude, it's 20 years old now. I'm sure it's declassified, but it was one of those things. It went so well that it was something I just wanted to have. But we were Dash 8, and when they called clear to lift, watching 3 MH-53s, 3 Limas, and a hotel in front of us all lift off at the same time to head for the target, the objective, was bitching. So primarily what we did in Iraq most of the time was Overwatch, because with the Seahawk, we had the gas. We also had the FLIR. So the 160th guys, I think they were BAT 3 or something like that, but they didn't have the fuel and they didn't have the eyes on. So, dude, that FLIR was that was amazing for us. So we would do squirter control and Overwatch, which is when the package hits the target and puts their guys off, the bad guys run out the back door of the house, and then we would spend the next 3 hours mopping it up. So with a spooky overhead, and their amazing ability to see stuff on the ground and spotlight it for us. That mission that night was the 2 hotels that did the Overwatch. In a 3-hour period of time, we picked up 26 dudes. So split between the 2 aircraft, we had 13 pucks in the back of our aircraft. We had an ICTF, so the Iraqi special forces and our special forces together, but wrapping these guys up, and dude, they were just like stacked in the cabin like cordwood. So, but in a 3 hour period of time after the hit, just that constant focus, flying around low wires, and there was just crap all over the place. It's a city, but landing, putting the team out to go get the bad guy, wrap them up, get back on board, find the next guy, and just that constant crew coordination with where the FLIR was, where the wires were, any obstacles, and we're calling it out, keeping eyes on where we're going for the bad guy. And between me and Nate and the two guys in front, like, dude, that flight, we both got back, and that flight couldn't have gone better. But we took 26 dudes off that target that night.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And so unusual, right? Like,
Yeah.
something always goes wrong.
Nothing. Not a damn thing that night went wrong. The birds got in, did the infill, got out. We stayed there until the extract call, and then we all went home. Dumped the guys off to where they needed to go, and it was just one of those missions where like everything went great, went really, really well. But it's really bitching to see that view from the back of all the birds lifting off at the same time. All the the rotors on the FLIR and everything is pretty bitching.
Yeah, you've shared a few. In fact, I think it's your footage that I have on like the podcast opening and closing, because it's amazing. It's like to get that footage. It's like, I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, of course, man.
So people can visualize, it's in your mind, it's one thing, but to actually just tangibly like see it, it's like, it's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So all of the pictures that you've seen and you've looked through. So I think it's kind of a joke amongst the guys of what a geek I became with the mission and collecting. I ended up being the heritage guy just because I started. So I've been taking photos for years. So a lot of the stuff is pictures that I had taken while flying. I mean, you've got the best, photograph platform in the world is being able to hang out the left window and take a picture back of the bird and trail.
Yeah.
Toothy always went someplace with a camera. I always had a camera with me. But as the years went on, so I'll say like HAL 3. So the Seawolves being in Vietnam from 67, 68 to 72. There's a lot of memorabilia they didn't bring home. There's guys that took photos and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that stayed in country when they left. Is in the back of my mind. I'm like, we've done something pretty amazing here. I'm going to collect as many photos, as many videos, and even some of the memorabilia, collect as much of that as I can, because while people laugh now, like, oh, Toothy's got his camera out again, is 20 years from now, somebody's going to go, hey, dude, you got that photo that you took? And not even a week ago, I got an email from somebody. It's like, hey, you got that photo? Yeah, yes, I got that photo. So, 20 years going on 30 years of just collecting our community's history. I've ended up with terabytes of photos and videos.
Are you putting that out publicly, or is it just like on your Instagram?
So that Firewolf HCS page was just to post photos. And dude, I've got 5,000 to 6,000 more. I'm trying to do maybe one every couple of days because I don't want to burn out. But there's a lot. There is a lot of photos that we've taken all the way back to 67, even before HAL 3 when it was HC1. That there's photos all the way back to that. So trying to post some of the history and the heritage, along with more recent photos of 84, 85, and then the HCS days in Iraq.
Yeah, please do. I mean, that's amazing, because you lose that stuff. Like, I had Bill Rutledge in the book, and his HAL 3, and amazing dude. And his thing, I asked him, I was just being respectful. I'm like, do you mind if, we talk about some of your experiences, as hard as those can be?
No, I don't care. Let's talk about them.
Oh yeah. He dropped an F-bomb, just like, if we don't tell him, and then we're gone and no one will know him. And, and sadly he passed away just like a month after I had the interview. And so it's such a gift to have him there. But I mean, it just shows there's so much history that can be lost. And the fact that you're taking the time to do that is, I think everyone's grateful for that. You may not, get a lot of praise or anything else, but people definitely appreciate it. Exactly.
Don't need it. Not doing it for that. It's the history will continue to exist, for years to come. That's something that they can't erase, is our history and what we did. Dude,
Yeah.
Bill Rutt. So good Bill Rutt story. So he lived over in like the Kearney Mesa area.
Mhm.
So towards the end of days at HCS 5, dude, we used to go over to his house all the time. And Bill Rutt's house, like you'd go over there and just sit on the floor and listen to stories. Like you didn't get it was Bill, so you didn't get a word in edgewise. You were students, you would sit and just listen to him.
Mhm.
But I ran season at North Island for the reserves, ran season in 2009. And over at 57, I had him come in to be a heritage, he retired as a senior chief, but to be a heritage guest speaker. And he's like, I'd love to do that, and have him come in. And, half the group was females, dude. The selectee class, like half the class was females. And we did it in the afternoon at like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, something like that. But Red Eye shows up in his dress blues like he always did. And dude, he dropped an F-bomb about every 3 words and went into saying some of the most like off-color stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm just sitting there going, oh God, I'm going to hear about this. And at the end, everybody went up to him. They were so excited and, shake his hand and getting to hear the words of an old salt that's been there and done that.
Yeah, he gets a pass.
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's so cool that you did that. Yeah, brought him in. But yeah, that would have been amazing. Like, you probably don't have that filmed or anything, do you?
Pictures. I'll send you a couple pictures of it. I took some, when we were sitting there. But dude, that's why it's cool that like School Seawolf. I was just up there a couple of months ago with a couple of the boys, and well, I posted a picture you probably saw on Facebook a couple of days ago, that old HCS crewman that we were up there together. And you had Paul on already. So Paul Picotti, and he's got his bar and restaurant up there, the Grid. But we just went to hang out and visit Paul for a week, and ended up getting a tour of NSOC from a couple of dudes that, you've had one of them on here recently, Mikey. But they were gracious enough to take us in and got a tour of the place, and pretty cool. But when 85 decommed in 23, all the memorabilia, because they had 84 stuff, the HCS stuff had moved, from coast to coast with the shutdowns. We filled up a 20-foot Connex box full of memorabilia and needed a place to keep it. So Paul's keeping it safe for us. But then we got a call about, I don't know, 8-9 months ago. And the school up there asked if they could put some of that stuff, that heritage stuff, on the walls at the school. And dude, it's just so cool to get a tour and walk down the hallways and see stuff that we had on the walls at 85, stuff that had been on the walls at HCS 4, and all the Seawolf history, because we had a ton of Seawolf history. But to see all that stuff out on display again for the students going through School Seawolf and seeing actual Seawolf, heritage and memorabilia was really, really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, things are changing, and yeah, you don't want to lose sight of that history. So that's so cool. You're a part of that. You want to pivot to a hypothetical scenario?
Sure.
All right.
What you got?
Let's see. Let's do something that you've probably never done, and you've done a lot. All right, let's do an Arctic ice flow rescue. How's that sound? Okay. A scientific research team's boat becomes trapped in shifting ice, forcing them onto a fragile ice floe that is rapidly breaking apart. You're the rescue swimmer, launching. That's all you know. Go.
How many are on the boat?
I told you everything I know. This is real life. Well, we don't have all the information.
Obviously, any kind of ship, it's still upright at this point. If it's locked in ice, there's always the potential it's going to get crushed, but you've still got access to the deck. So any kind of rescue is going to be, wherever the obstacles are the clearest on the front, the bow or the stern of the ship, and getting down on deck and getting people out there one at a time so they're not exposed. It's Arctic, so you don't want them exposed to the elements. But get them out one at a time, hoist them up, get them in the helicopter. But part of the equation is how many are we going to launch, and how far away from the station is it, and how many people are there? if it's 300-400 miles away from station, we got to have enough gas to get back, and we can't overfill. But hopefully we've got more than one aircraft to put overhead to get people off a ship. If it's an exploration ship, dude, there's probably going to be 15 to 30 scientists on board. So it's either going to take a couple of birds or a couple of trips. So, and then just like the Endurance, the ship will end up at the bottom of the sea, and we'll find it 100 years from now.
Shackleton, yeah. Amazing story. Cool, nice job. You saved most of them.
Not bad for not being in an aircraft for 20 years.
Not bad.
Yeah, that was one of. So Sean Porter, who I know you had in the book, we were in Iraq together in 2005, and sitting there talking about, dude, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because at that time we had to make a decision of whether we were going to stay maintenance or go AW. There are some old school maintenance guys, like Paul ended up going active duty AW. Quite a few of the guys did. But I've always had a little bitterness towards the Navy that they made us make a choice between, something that we absolutely love to do and promoting, essentially. Because the guys that stayed AW, dude, it was so tough for them for, 3, 4, 5 years. And some guys all the way up, just never got chances to promote because they were always those HCS guys. And I saw that. And I had a good chance of making chief in 2006. And now I thought of my family and I thought about promotion. I said, all right, I'm good. I'm going to be done with it. So it would have been really hard. And it was hard for some of the guys to go from 8 years of HCS and, 4 deployments to Iraq and doing all that stuff to flying with JGs off the carrier doing starboard D. And I thought about that. I was like, that's not something I want to do, man. Like, I've done the best flying I can possibly do at the squadron, and I'm just going to put a bow on it and be done. At that time, we had no idea that 4 was going to stay around because, 5 shut down. They were gone.
Yep. So
at that time, I made the best decision I could for me and for my family. And, I can't say it was a bad decision. I miss flying, when in 2021, so I was CMC at 85 from 2018 to 2021. And a week before checking out, Chris Lemon, myself, a couple other guys went out and did an overwater gun X with 240s. And it was a bicycle, dude. It was just like getting on a bicycle, but getting to go and fly. And, I'd always laugh at the guys because it's like, I'm not putting on an air save. Like, give me a horse collar. That's all I'm wearing. I'm not a crewman, strap me in the seat. That, it had been 15 years since I'd flown as a paid crewman. So, I needed to get treated like a passenger regardless of what I knew. 2020, right towards the end of 2020, it was my goal before I left 85 that I wanted to do jumps one more time. So, spent about 6 months getting in shape. Was running my ass off. Got in pretty dang good shape, man. I got down to about 195. Was feeling real good. But put my old shorty back on, still got my gear, but put my shorty back on, and me and Aaron Hagar, Ricky Ferrer, God, there was a whole bunch of people. I think we had like 8 swimmers on that flight, but got to go jump out of a Sierra and, do jumps again, get hoisted and everything. And it was just like, oh my God.
Oh, I would love that.
Such a good job, dude. Love that job so much.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. But you've had incredible experiences. Most could never, like the stories that you're telling. I mean, the viewers are just gonna be like blown away. But based on all that, what is a bit of wisdom that you would leave our listeners with?
Never. I've got goosebumps on my legs right now. Never take a day for granted, man. Yeah. Never. Live every single day and love your family and your spouse and your kids like it's going to be your last day on the planet. Because you just go from, I don't want to start again. When the mishap happened with John Clement in 2018, is that you just go from, it's a normal day. It's just a normal day. You come to work, you do your job. It's chaos as usual, with the squadron. And then you go home and then you get a phone call. And that phone call changed everything in an instant. I got a phone call from Skipper, and he's like, I need you here right now. And we had that mishap in 2018.
Yeah.
But just driving down the road, just how quickly life changes. Is just enjoy every second you got, man, because you could turn around and now there's no more life, and it's just over, and leave nothing on the table when it's over. I tell that to my kids all the time. It's like, when you reach the end of the road, whenever the end of that road is make sure you've left nothing on the table. Try your hardest at everything you do.
Yeah. That's such great advice. And I think you can only have that type of wisdom by walking it out and having that experience, because, when you're young, you know everything.
Yeah.
But, as you walk out, especially such just an incredibly difficult job. And then, the scenario you spoke of, it's such a fluke, and life can just be taken from you within an instant. And
Yep.
I know right now I'm grieving. My best friend and climbing partner passed away a week ago today.
Sorry to hear that, man.
And it's tough, and it provides that perspective. It doesn't mean that we don't take calculated risks, but take risks, calculate them, and live life so far beyond, what you think you're capable of doing. Because, yeah, you're right. In the end, we're all going to pass, but we don't know if that's going to be as soon as we shut down this Zoom call, or
Right.
if it's going to be,
Fuck, I hope not, dude.
I know. I hope not too. There's a lot.
I'm looking around for something to fall on me.
That would be horrible.
No.
An exclusive here. Mark Brush dies.
Yeah, dude. It's just one of those things that you don't want to have any regrets. And I had a dear friend. I called him Uncle Donnie. Passed away, and it was the ex's uncle in San Diego. And that guy, we stayed close over the years. He's a motorcycle guy. He raced at Bonneville. He did 230 miles an hour in a streamliner at Bonneville. Don Angel. But that dude would still, after I moved to Colorado, call me 2-3 times a week and go, hey, and just, hi, we'd have a great conversation. Everything was great. And about a month ago, he just passed in his sleep.
Yeah.
And now I'm not going to get that, that phone call. And it still hits from time to time that I miss him. I want to talk to him again,
Mm-hmm.
And we've got his celebration of life out in San Diego, June 8th. So I'm hitting the road the first week of June and headed out to Sand Dog. So
Yeah.
you're out in San Diego, right?
I'm up in Seattle.
Oh, Seattle. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd definitely come see you. But yeah, I'm sorry about that loss. But
Yeah, you too, man.
Thank you. What I've known, my wife and I teach like grief share at our church as well, so we're pretty attuned in it. But it doesn't make it any easier. But one thing I've definitely learned is that pain it's a good thing, because that means we cared for those people that we've lost so much. If you didn't have pain, then their legacy kind of ends right there. But that pain is a great reminder. And if they were still alive, it's not like we spent every moment of every day with them. So, I mean, we have to give ourselves permission and have that courage to find joy. But when that pain comes in, it's, think of it as a blessing of just the memories and everything. And, over time it gets a little easier, but, it never truly goes away.
That's a fact, man.
Cool. Well, we ended on a
somewhat down note. Or the thought of me being crushed by something in my office.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Well, Mark, it's such a pleasure. Just a pleasure to have you as a friend, and for you to share your vulnerabilities, your stories, just incredible stories. And yeah, just thanks so much for being on the show.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yep. And for everyone else, we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Calm in the Chaos podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of future episodes. And if you enjoyed what you just heard, please leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Until next time, get out there and make a difference so others may live.